Hi, good evening. This is the February 13th, 2025 meeting of the Needham Conservation Commission. I'm Dave Harrer, Conservation Commission Chair. As a reminder, this meeting is being broadcast to the town's YouTube channel and via Zoom, and also being recorded for publication, later viewing, and administrative purposes. Before we get started, I'm going to do a roll call of the commission members and staff. When I call your name, please respond. Sue?
Here.
Clary? Reed?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
Paulina?
Here.
And Deb?
Here.
And Clay?
Here.
Okay. All supporting materials have been provided to the commission members and are on the commission website. There's a few ground rules for our meeting tonight. I will open and introduce each hearing on the agenda and introduce the applicant, and for them to begin their project presentation. After the conclusion of the applicant's presentation, I'll call on the staff and then each commission member to provide their comments or questions. Please wait until your name is called. After comments or questions from the staff and commission, I'll solicit comments from the public. Please wait until the chair yields the floor to you. Okay. First item on the agenda is minutes. Did we have any minutes, Deb?
Yeah, we had January 23rd was
Okay.
circulated. Sue, did you read those?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and I sent in anything.
All right.
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes? Or January 23rd?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, any enforcement or violation updates, Deb?
692 Central Ave. It looks like there has been quite a bit of tree removal that may be in our jurisdiction. I've been by there a few times and no one's been there when I've gone by. But a neighbor has been keeping me on top of the situation. So I'm going to try going by one more time, and then I'll send them a certified letter asking them to join us for a meeting to discuss.
All right,
And that's it.
all right, so the first item, Keolis, I guess they want to move this to the next meeting, is that correct?
They want to go to March 27th because they had a conflict with another meeting tonight.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on that, do we? Because we haven't opened the hearing? Or that's a question, I guess.
No.
All right.
Who's that?
Next, excuse me,
Who is that?
Keolis, they run the MBTA.
Okay.
For their vegetation management plan, they update it every 5 years.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Clary used to do that. Too bad well, hopefully she'll be here next week. All right, so we'll open that hearing next week. Next item is 35 Meadowbrook Road, DEP file 234-942. And Susan, was that your project?
Yes. Yep.
Do you want to give us an update?
Yeah, and I believe Michelle Mandino is also on the call. So where we left off last was the commission had asked for additional mitigation. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. So we had originally just proposed, so this is the perennial stream that runs alongside, it's Rosemary Brook, and we had originally just proposed mitigation along this 25-foot buffer right in here. But we were told that was not adequate amount. So we added another, I think it was about 1,400 square feet roughly. So we are now at 3,450 square feet. This is going to be a naturalized no-mow area. These little squares are placards to just designate that, you know, it is a natural area to not be disturbed. The placards we'll get from the conservation office, and we'll also install those on like concrete bound posts. And that was it. I mean, I think the commission was good with everything else. So that's the only update I have.
Okay, Deb, do you have any comments?
No, the only other change was they're not proposing to put the fence up
Oh, right,
anymore.
the vinyl fence, yeah, yeah.
So they do have the placards, and I guess if the intent is to kind of keep this area as a, you know, a meadow, that they're gonna have to mow it once a year.
That's right. That's what we're proposing, just to keep the woody vegetation in check.
Okay, so I do have that as a special condition. So just as long as the new owners understand, you know, that this isn't gonna turn into lawn.
Oh, it's not going to be sold. It's they're not
Okay.
new owners. Yeah, they're living.
Okay. As long as they understand that, I think that we're good.
Okay, thanks. Do any of the commissioners have comment or question? Okay, if that's the case, let's close. Oh, let me ask Clay if there's anybody in the audience that has their hand up.
There are no hands raised.
Okay. So no more comments. Let's close the hearing. Can I have a motion to close the hearing for 35 Meadowbrook Road, DEP file 234-942?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Bill,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
All
Can
right,
I
Thank
thank you.
just ask who you want me to send the original to, or if someone wants to pick it up, or
Oh, Michelle, are you on the call?
I am.
Do you do you want to pick it up?
Just,
Mail it?
what are my options? Pick it up or?
I can send it to certified mail. It needs to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and
okay.
we need to have a copy of that recording information.
Okay,
So I can either mail it to you, or you can come by our office and pick it up.
okay, got it. Yeah, if you could mail it, please. All right.
Okay. And so Sue, you can explain to her about the recording and all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Thank you.
right, will do.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks. Okay, next item on the agenda is 0 Cheney Street, DEP file 234-943. I don't believe there was any outstanding questions, but Deb, do you have
No, not that I know of.
any of the commissioners? Nope.
No.
Okay, then let's close this hearing. Can I have a motion to close the hearing for 0 Cheney Street, DEP file 234-943?
To close.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay. Next, we have 914 Charles River Street, DEP file 234-944, which is a notice of intent for a project to explore some backup wells for the town of Needham. Who do we have?
Hello, I'm here. My name is Haley Page with Weston and Sampson, and I'm also joined by Frank Getchell. We have a brief presentation prepared to share, if that's okay to jump right into things.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, let me share that screen. Let me know when you can see, hopefully, an opening slide.
Yep, we see it.
Great. Okay, so to jump into things, let's see if it clicks with me. As it was mentioned, project is a well investigation project located at the town of Needham water treatment plant facility. And we filed it on behalf of the Needham Department of Public Works Water and Sewer Division. So speaking to the actual site, the project is proposed to be located at 914 Charles River Street, which is the water treatment plant, which you can see on this Google aerial imagery. Additionally, also this USGS topographic map was included in the application package, but just to give an idea of the actual areas where the potential well explorations are proposed to occur. And then moving into just touching base on the wetland resources that were delineated on site. They were associated with the Charles River, adjacent bordering vegetated wetlands, and there was also an intermittent stream that ran through the middle of the site. So a little background on this project. So as mentioned, again, the town of Needham Department of Public Works Water Department, we are assisting in permitting this project. This is a proposed test well exploration program. The test boring locations have been selected to identify a redundant well supply to meet the future needs of the system. And if there was a case where the existing wells were to be placed offline, there would be a backup source. Oops, sorry, I wasn't sure if someone was speaking. Currently, the primary source of the Needham's drinking water is the Charles River well field, where there are 3 groundwater wells that are drawn from that directly tie into the water treatment plant. And the town's secondary source comes from the MWRA, which is primarily used in the summer. In addition, the Needham has an emergency interconnections to provide and receive water from the neighboring towns of Wellesley and Dedham. In 2018, Needham's averaged 3.6 million gallons of water per day. 73% was produced from its primary source and 27% from the secondary source. So just a little bit more on the site. To stress, there is existing fire roads throughout the water treatment plant facility. As you can see in this image on the screen, they're pretty maintained in these areas. And they're beneficial for the site exploration and eventually will be beneficial for the construction of the redundant well once the site is determined. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Frank to speak a little more detail into the scope of work for the actual well exploration. So Frank, if you want to go ahead and let me know if you want to move ahead any slides.
Thank you, Haley. Good evening. So as Haley indicated earlier, the purpose of this project is to provide a redundant groundwater supply for Needham in the same vicinity as the other wells that currently provide water. So in looking at possible locations, we know that the aquifer, generally speaking, is pretty prolific in this area. But we have several constraints in terms of where the redundant well can be located. One of them being the Mass DEP requirement for a zone 1 radius of 400 feet. And the other one being that we want to kind of go for the location where we think the aquifer will provide the highest yield, which also can reflect a higher efficiency for a well. And we can also try to minimize any kind of overlap in what we call interference when the other wells are pumping and this well is pumping. The existing well field, very common for most of the wells in this area, have iron and manganese issues. So periodically these wells need to be taken offline so they can be rehabilitated. So that's one of the main intents for the redundant well, is to pretty much allow for, when that happens, kind of a minimal amount of disruption to providing water to the service area. So based on Haley's delineation of the wetlands out in that area, we located 3 potential exploration sites, and they were based on the fact that they allow for this 400-foot radius, zone 1 radius around any one of those sites to be entirely within town-owned, water department-owned property, so they don't go out onto the road or overlap into somebody else's property. So that means that the water department has complete control over that land. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we tried to adhere to the necessary setbacks relative to the wetland delineation, floodplain lines, and so forth. You see the 3 locations here, A, B, and C. The sequence that we would like to go for these exploration wells is actually BAC. We do ABC just because we're going across the site, in a particular order. The intent is that if we find the favorable conditions at the first location, which is B, the intent is that we may not proceed to A or to C, and instead just stick at that one location. The goal being minimal disruption to the site. All the locations are based on these fire access roads that Haley was describing. There'll be a little bit of disruption around the actual well site for the purpose of drilling. And basically what will happen is we're going to advance to about 100 to 120 feet below grade at any particular location, and we're going to be sampling on our way down to look for to characterize what the materials are and to look for the more coarser grained of those materials, which we anticipate to be down around that 100, 120 feet. The samples will be retrieved as part of the drilling process, and we'll have somebody on site who will characterize those materials. I think for the perspective of, so you have an idea of what we're talking about, let's go to the next slide, Haley. So this is what the drill rig will look like. It's actually a track-mounted rig. We're going with the track-mounted rig for 2 reasons. One is that much more nimble and stable relative to being able to access the sites that we've identified as opposed to a truck-mounted type rig. And also based on that, we feel that we would basically have minimal, we're going to try to minimize any disruption for the well site itself. This is the actual rig that will be used. So this isn't just, we picked one off of the internet. So it gives you an idea on the dimensions. Then you have the driller and the driller's helper there for scale. The only other vehicle that would access that area would be the service truck, which is just a larger pickup truck. It's just to the front of the drill rig to the left of it. They'll have their own water that they'll be using to help with the advancement of the equipment. And we plan to containerize as much as possible or maintain in a particular area any of the cuttings and the water. The technique we're using is called a dual rotary approach. So what that means is that there's an outer casing that proceeds just behind the drill bit. And what that does is it minimizes any kind of borehole instability. And so as a result of that, we find that we don't have as much cuttings as we do with some other types of technique. And we have to go with this particular rig because of the depth. So we can't go with a smaller rig because, like I said, we're targeting between 100 and 120 feet. Okay, Haley. And just to give you an idea of what will be left behind, these are 2 examples. It will basically be a 1.5 to 2 foot stick up of steel casing with a cap on it. The well itself is inside. They're going to be 4-inch. These are 2.5 just for scale, but the well inside it will be 2-inch PVC, which will go down to about, say, within about 5 feet of the bottom of the borehole. And then the remaining 5 feet will actually have a stainless steel screen. This allows us to get water level measurements. It also allows us to do testing, such as put a small pump in there and to take a look at what the response is when we pump on that. And we use that as kind of a qualitative, semi-quantitative approach to classifying or characterizing the area relative to its yield potential. Again, the intent is we're looking to develop a well supply that's going to be pretty much equivalent to what the rest of the well field can produce. So if one of those wells goes down for whatever reason, we can duplicate the amount of water that we're taking out of the aquifer. Once the test well is proven and we've identified a location, at that point, then we'll be coming back out with a different type of drill rig that will put in the actual larger diameter test well. But that's for discussion for a later time. We're here primarily just for the exploratory drilling at this point. I don't know if there's anything else for me there, Haley.
I think that's it, Frank. I'll briefly take it over just to wrap it up, and then we'll open it up just to discuss a little further.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I briefly just wanted to touch base on the proposed impacts for this. So as described in the application, well test location B is located within the 100-year flood zone, which is bordering land subject to flooding. And there could potentially be up to 600 square feet of impact, we stated, there's going to be the setup of appropriate erosion and sediment controls surrounding the area that the drill will go into the ground. And we also said up to 600 square feet in case any vegetation clearing may be required for the rig to be able to access the site B. Additionally, there may be some impact within some local buffer zones, including the 25-foot buffer zone, the 50-foot buffer zone, and the 100-foot buffer zone. Just going to quickly skip ahead to the local buffer zones because I already spoke through the boring land subject to flooding impacts. So within the 100-foot buffer zone of the unnamed intermittent streams, impacts are likely to occur for the potential investigation of well exploration site A and B due to the temporary placement of the sediment and erosion controls. No alterations are proposed to the existing fire access roads, and all investigation activity impacts will be temporary in nature, with the affected areas returned to pre-investigation conditions upon the completion of work. Within the 50-foot buffer zone, the track-mounted rig will be traveling on the existing access road and is located within that 50-foot buffer zone already. There is no additional work proposed within the 50-foot buffer zone. However, we wanted to make sure to point out we will be accessing in the already altered area of the buffer zone. And finally, within the 25-foot buffer zone, a small area of the limit of work extends into the buffer zone for site B. However, the site will be accessed over the existing access roads, and there will be no additional alteration to the 25-foot buffer zone. So the rest of the work will be located outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. And at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions, and I just wanted to share the plan just in case anyone might want to point to any specific areas or have any additional questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. Nice presentation. Deb, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. Thank you.
All right, any of the commissioners? Any questions or comments? No? Means you did a great job.
I don't have a draft for this. You can close if you'd like, but I won't be able to issue till the next meeting.
Okay, well, I guess we've been continuing these hearings until we have the order of conditions. So
Right.
I would suggest we
Okay.
continue it, and at the next meeting, we'll have the order of conditions.
What's your time? When are you hoping to get this done?
I believe they're anticipating to get it done as soon as possible in February with the ground being frozen. I believe, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we would prefer that. Obviously it helps us in terms of getting in and out of there. So the sooner we can do it before the spring thaw, the better off.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so can I have a motion to continue the hearing for 914 Charles River Street, DEP file 234-944 to February 27, 2025?
Motion to continue.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and who am I missing here?
Bill.
Bill,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, thank you, and we'll get this wrapped up at our next meeting.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Thank you.
evening.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, last hearing on the agenda was 40 Highland Ave, 1416 Riverside Drive, DEP file 234-945. And who is going to represent the applicant here? Is that Matt?
Yep.
Okay. Floor is yours, Matt.
Okay, thank you. My name is Matt Varrell. I'm with Lucas Environmental. I'm a wetland scientist who's worked on this project since its inception quite a few years ago. With me tonight is Jim Almonte from LDC, as well as Stephen Wahlberg, who's the owner and proponent of this project. Sorry if I put up a plan here.
Yeah, please.
So we filed a notice of intent for basically two properties, 40 Highland Ave and 14 to 16 Riverside Street. Currently, the property consists of two lots, which includes an existing Chestnut Motors auto repair here along Highland Ave, an existing multi-family dwelling on the lot. I guess the lot back here. No, sorry, this one here. And what's basically proposed is to subdivide those two lots into three lots, splitting off the Chestnut Motors into its own lot that would remain, and then the rest of the property would be subdivided into two residential lots, with each lot housing its own duplex, multi-dwelling property. Jurisdiction on this site is limited to the Wetlands Protection Act. There is no bylaw jurisdiction on this property. If we look at this plan here, the red line is the outer 200-foot riverfront area. This is a property line running across here. This Charles River Trail leading down to the Charles River here. The yellow line is the 100-foot riverfront area. And the green line is the closest where the green line would extend into this yellow line here. That's basically the closest point of the 100-foot buffer zone. There is some bordering vegetated wetlands located off the site down towards the river. This property was subject to, we filed a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation back in 2020, and an ORAD was issued in September of 2020, and then subsequently extended in July of 23. It got a 2-year extension, so that ORAD is currently valid, I believe, through September 2025 this year. when we did the ANRAD process, it was a little bit different. And I don't know if there's any members current, I don't know if Sue Barber was on the commission at that time or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and I know Deb was familiar with the process we did on that. In addition to defining the wetland resource boundaries on and off the site, we had discovered on the site that it was a historic dumping ground, and through the ANRAD process and the ORAD process, the commission made a finding that the site is previously degraded through the presence of this dumping ground, and therefore the redevelopment performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act would apply for this development. So that's basically when we're talking about performance standards and work in riverfront area, those are the performance standards that we're going for, which are I'm sure you're familiar with, a little bit different than the standard if it's not a degraded site. This development that you see on the plan here has gone through planning board and gotten approval. The driveway that you see kind of somewhat prominent on the project here has been approved by the fire department. In fact, its size was somewhat required by the fire department. We would have preferred to go with something a little bit smaller, but they obviously wanted access to get a fire truck in there for proper public safety. So the total riverfront area that's disturbed is basically, if we look at this red line here and then going to this dash black line and sort of the edge of the proposed tree line here around through there. And that area is entirely within the previously degraded riverfront area, within this area that was, as I said, was a historic dumping ground. And that totals approximately 15,850 square feet. Proposed within that is obviously a portion of the driveway, a very small portion of this building here, and a portion of this building over here, this corner here. And then portions of this will be lawn and landscaping. So I'm gonna skip down to the proposed planting plan, just because that shows a little bit more detail here of what we're proposing. So again, we have a portion of this building within the riverfront area, a portion of this building, the driveway, and then this area here will be lawn. This area through here will be lawn. The sort of dotted area here will be a conservation mix that will be planted but will not be lawn. And then we're proposing fairly substantial plantings throughout the border here along the edge towards the river side of the development. Again, so the standard, as you know, for redevelopment is basically you have to show that you've made a net benefit to the riverfront area on the site. So how we feel we're meeting that standard is, one, by removing the materials that were dumped through here, which is a combination of asphalt, concrete, various rubble and debris, all kinds of things. That would obviously all be taken out, and as needed, proper stable fill would be brought back in. And then, as I said, this area would all be planted through here. So for the area that's basically within the portion of the site that's within the riverfront area, when this project is complete, approximately 10,878, give or take, square feet will either be lawn or this landscaped area. And 4,972 would be impervious surfaces consisting of the roadway and the portions of the buildings here. So we feel confident that meets the performance standard for an improvement to the riverfront area through here. But obviously that's up to your approval. So if you want, we can certainly go through the proposed stormwater drainage system for the site. As I said, Jim Almonte, the site and the project engineer is on board here and can go through that with you. But again, that's been approved through the planning board, and I believe the town engineer has reviewed it and accepted it as well. So I think I'll leave it at that and open it to questions depending on where you want to go with this.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Let's start with Deb. Do you have any comments?
No, I think I'll see what the commission has to say and I'll chime in, I think, if need be.
Okay, Fred?
So is any vegetation or any trees being removed in the construction process?
All right, I
Yeah.
might as well start here. So as far as our bylaw does not currently have riverfront area as a resource area. So our jurisdiction ends pretty much at the 100-foot buffer zone to the bank of the stream. So even if they are removing a bunch of trees, they don't have to go by any of our policies as for our bylaw because that's not in our jurisdiction at all. Just to clarify.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Deb. To answer the question in general, though, the site is currently primarily forested. So what we were able to discern through the NRAD process and sort of the site investigation process was that sometime back in probably the 60s or 70s, this site started to become an area where materials were dumped. And what it was originally back then, who knows? Presumably it was open at that point. We did come across, I think, an aerial photo from 96 or so that showed the site still pretty much open, and sort of that was probably towards the end of the time when it was being used as a dumping ground. And at some point, for whatever reason, the dumping stopped. I guess it's a good thing. And the site was basically left dormant and left to just kind of let nature take its course. And nature did take its course and it revegetated as almost any area would. So the area is currently, what I would consider a young forest, although there's a few large trees out there. The trees out there are primarily cottonwood, Norway maple, tree of heaven, with a few small northern red oaks mixed in. The understory is common buckthorn, apple, a few red maples, red oaks, black cherries, I think one or two staghorn sumacs. But probably the main dominant vegetation out there are vines, which the site is overrun with poison ivy. So if you were to go out and look at it, this is the best time of year to look at it because in the summertime, it's a pretty dangerous place to go if you're allergic to poison ivy. Oriental bittersweet all over, which has done a number on most of the trees out there. Virginia creeper as well as some grape.
Okay.
So it is essentially forested, and those trees will come down as part of the development.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, any?
I do have,
questions?
so Matt, what you're saying is that, that outer riverfront, the outer 100-foot riverfront was it was completely, within the dumping ground. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the complete outer 100-foot. If you look at this plan, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. Can you see this hatch line here?
Mm-hmm.
The hatching is basically the edge of the line here between the hatching and the non-hatching is what we determined. So this lower part in here to be the dumping ground, and beyond here it wasn't. If you're actually walking along the pathway here, you can actually fairly clearly see where there's sort of striations of asphalt and concrete, and there's a real change in slope. And just outside that change in slope is where you get some large, mature red maples that will remain. Because they're outside of the proposed work zone. So that portion was basically what we would call a natural riverfront area, not dumping ground, and we're just staying within the confines of the dumping ground, essentially.
Okay, was it a hazardous, would you consider it a hazardous waste dumping ground?
I don't believe so. We didn't find any evidence when the test pits were being dug of, you know, odors of oil or anything like that. Certainly if this project is approved and the site is, you know, fully excavated, if anything like that is encountered, obviously the requirements of the mass contingency plan will be followed. But we believe it's all sort of fairly benign dumping materials for the most part, most like as I said, concrete and asphalt, things like that.
Okay, and one last question. So basically what you're saying is that any construction will be contained within that previously degraded area of the historic dumping ground.
Correct.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, thanks. Alina, do you have any questions, comments? No? I don't see.
If she is, she said she might have to step away for a few
Alright.
minutes for a phone
Right,
call if
she
she's
goes
not.
back. Bill?
So any changes are going to be between the 100 and the 200 feet, what do they call it, riparian zone?
Mm-hmm.
And our regulations don't speak to that area presently, right?
Correct.
Do the new regulations change that at all?
Well, we can chat about that after, I think.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the state regulations apply to the outer riparian zone.
Ours do not, but it would take a change in our bylaw. So it'd have to go to town meeting to get that through, which is an option that we can look at.
Okay, thanks.
Reed, any questions?
Yeah, if you could just zoom in on the planting plan. I have it too, but I think it would just be helpful to put on the screen. I don't know Dev, if we have jurisdiction about what can sort of be planted, but you know, like some of like a Norway spruce, is not native, obviously. And then, the autumn blaze red maple, that's a cultivar. I guess, like with our tree policy, right, we try to stick to natives and non-cultivars. So, I don't know if those can be changed.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly made an effort to try and choose native species in general. I think with the exception that you pointed out there, with the goal of that they would be providing wildlife habitat, plants that fruit, that are, but certainly there are some cultivars in here. If you would like us to look at that, I think the applicant would be willing to potentially tweak that plan there and look for more true native species.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just, a native red maple rather than autumn blaze. I think autumn blaze, has some issues with it too, so.
Yeah, I think one of the bit of an issue that we run into with and sort of with my experience over the years in doing these types of planting plans, I'm not a huge proponent of the other varieties, but sometimes if you get the true, like let's just say for the red maples, a true red maple, if it comes from a nursery that maybe has grown it in wetter conditions, this certainly is not a wet, so this is not gonna be a wet
Yeah,
site
yeah,
when
yeah.
it's done. We're quite a ways from the river, so we want to be careful not to be planting anything that, you know, that is used to being in wet conditions, and all of a sudden we put it in a dry condition and it fails. But certainly a lot of these nurseries nowadays have things like winterberry and blueberry and arrowwood. That although those are wetland plants, have sort of been raised in drier conditions and are can survive in that way. But we can, you know, happy to look at whichever, we can look at all of them, and just, you know.
Yeah,
try and-
I like the, I can, you know, I like the plant, you know, the list, you know, it's got a nice variety, you know, a lot of, you know, as you said, different types of plants, so, like, you know, a lot of thought has clearly been gone into it already, but, just, you know, that's my.
If I can just weigh in, this is Jim Almonte from LDC. A couple of those species, like the fastigiate ones, were planted on the property line, the common property line. They're not the buffer plantings. There was actually a request from the planning board to add some buffer plantings along the property line. Yeah, right there. So, and we didn't have a lot of room between the property line and the infiltration trench that we were required to put in. So in order to get the buffer that they wanted in a tight area, that's where we spec those fastigiate Norways. So there's none of those plantings in the buffer zone or in the buffer plantings. So just point of clarification on that, but we can certainly look at changing some of the other species in the buffer plantings along the.
So just to clarify, what's outside of the buffer then?
It's along, yeah, Matt's got his arrow there.
Yeah, no, but what species are those?
So we had that fastigiate Norway spruce.
Yeah,
We
it's
had
the TO, the PS,
Okay.
and the
Yep.
AF.
the dark American Abrevite and the fastigiate white pine too.
Got it.
I'll have to talk to the planning board and get them on board with the native species.
It'll be good.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? All right, I don't have any comments other than, you know, what's been made so far. I do want to let the commission know that I've reviewed the stormwater plan, and I think it's adequate. I know it's already been reviewed by the town engineer, but it looks good. So there's no other comments from the commissioners. Clay, could you check if there's any comments from the general public?
There is one hand raised. I will move them over. It's Paul Prohadsky.
Okay. Hi, Paul. You're on mute if you're trying to speak here.
All right, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Good. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, just a little history on the area. My family is a major butter to this property. We're along the right-hand side of it and down at the front down by the Chestnut Street, and the two lots on the right-hand side of his are both my family's. There are houses on both of those. That land was originally farmland going back 60, 70 years ago. And the fill in there is only about 3 or 4 feet deep, because that was brought in by one of the previous owners, the Terrazino family. And I don't know if you are familiar with them, but they used to run the automatic transmission place down on Needham Street. They had bought that property many years ago, and there was a barn and some houses on it, and they were all knocked down to make the what is now the Chestnut Motors. It used to be Midas Muffler. And that whole area in the back where the fill is, that fill doesn't go down more than 3 or 4 feet. And then below that is the original farmland that was been there for, you know, I'm 70 years old, so it's been there as long as I have. Okay, just for some information purposes. And as far as the trees go, I know that these guys will look at them and will do a good job with the plantings. However, most of the existing trees are diseased or insect ridden. They have had no care by anybody for, I'm going to say 30 plus years. And there's a fence that runs along the property on the right-hand side. And it also runs across the front edge, the part towards Highland Avenue. I mean, the part towards Riverside Street. And I can tell you right now that we've already had, in the past 3 years, 7 or 8 trees fall on top of the fence and have to be repaired. So, any plan should account for making sure those trees that are left there are healthy and not as diseased as most of them are. And that's my only comments.
All right, thanks, Paul. Interesting background. Any other hands up? Clay? No?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, so
This I also have to draft for the next meeting. My apologies.
yeah, so we're going to continue this hearing until our next meeting, at which time we'll have the order of conditions. And we can, hopefully wrap this up. So could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 40 Highland Avenue, DEP file 234-945 to February 22nd, 2025?
So moved.
It can't be the 22nd.
I said 27th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I meant the 27th.
I was like, oh my God, no, not so soon.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. All right, we got, somebody want to second the motion?
A second.
All right, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, thank
Great,
you,
thank
Joe.
you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.
all right. Next up, we have a couple requests for certificates of compliance. The first is 1616 Great Plain Avenue, DEP file 234-900.
Yes,
Yes.
good evening. Diane from Field Resources.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. I'm here this evening for the owner and contractor. Originally, this DEP, this order was open for a homeowner who proposed a house. After getting through your commission, they actually decided not to move to Needham and ended up selling the project to another homeowner. So with that said, we're here this evening to close the order for the new homeowner, and we're looking for a partial certificate. And if I don't know, it's a pretty straightforward order in the sense that the original house was substantially larger than the one that was built, but we do find that the patio was slightly smaller. We also have the infiltration system where we had 2 separate chambers. They actually put them together, and that also was the same size, though again, the chambers were combined. The driveway was substantially larger at 243 square feet larger. Though, as I mentioned, the infiltration system that was proposed for the original house, even though the infiltration system was kept. So again, the infiltration system that they have was for a substantially larger house. Finally, the plantings that were proposed to be on the wetland side of the proposed fence, though they planted them on the side of the fence closest to the home. with the trees that were transplanted. Those trees and the plantings have not completed their growing seasons, though it was not required in the order. So, so with that, we are requesting and I think I misspoke earlier, but we are requesting a certificate of compliance, a complete certificate of compliance this evening for 1616 Great Plain Ave. And I will open that up for any questions.
All right, thank you. Deb, do you have any,
So why did the driveway end up being so much bigger?
The driveway was substantially bigger because they put a turnabout, and the turnabout was, and I can bring up the plan if you'd like to take a look. The turnabout was furthest away from the wetlands,
Okay.
the intermittent.
Okay, that's the only question I had, besides the deviations that Diane listed. I think I'm all set with this project and recommend a certificate of compliance.
all right, any comments from Commissioner? No? Okay, could I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 1616 Great Plain Avenue, DEP file 234-900?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right. Thank
Right.
you, Diane.
Diane, do you want to pick it up or do you want me to?
Yeah, we'll
mail
pick that up. We'll
Okay,
pick-
I'll let you know when it's ready.
That will be great. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks.
All right, good. The next request for certificate of compliance is 103 Wayne Road, DEP file 234-910. And trying to see who we have here representing the applicant.
Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting is here on behalf of the applicant tonight.
All right, Tom. Do you want to give us a summary of?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a notice of intent for the tear down and rebuild of a single family house on the property. This was entirely in buffer zone to an intermittent stream and BVW. The tear down and rebuild was slightly different than the existing footprint of the existing house. So there was some encroachment further into the buffer zone, but entirely within lawn. As mitigation, we proposed some plantings that were in the rear of the property. We are now requesting a partial certificate of compliance because we have not done the second year of monitoring for it, but we'd like to close out the building portion of it by requesting this partial certificate of compliance, and we'll come back at a later date next year, or later this year anyway, when we have our second and final monitoring program submitted to Deb and we get the okay. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks. So Deb, do you have anything to add?
No, the engineer signed off that they didn't find any deviations with what has been done so far. And we did receive a monitoring report for the first year, I believe, correct?
Correct. Yep. I submitted a construct or I guess a restoration planting monitoring report. So that was the first one once they went in, and then
Yeah.
I submitted the first year of monitoring after that.
Yeah. So I think that you can issue the partial, and we'll just finish up with the plantings at the end of this growing season. The second report.
Okay, thanks. Any commissioners have a comment, question? No? In that case, could I have a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for 103 Wayne Road, DEP file 234-910?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's vote. Sue,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
I see Paulina's back. Paulina?
I'm back, but I missed that last presentation, so can I abstain from voting?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
And the chair votes aye. So,
Fantastic. Appreciate it.
all right,
Do you
thanks.
want
Tom.
me to mail, who do you want me to send this out to?
Can you send it to Bill if that's possible? If you
To
don't have his
the,
address, that's fine. You can just send it to me. I'll get it to him.
okay, I probably do.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so to finish up on a couple earlier items, we have draft certificates of compliance for 35 Meadowbrook and 0 Cheney. Or
Yeah,
Cheney.
orders of conditions, draft orders of conditions.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So do you want to run through those, Deb?
Sure. Clay, do you have those handy?
Yeah, which would you like to start with?
Well, we'll go in order. We'll go with Meadowbrook. Okay, so we know this is a demo rebuild project in the riverfront area and the buffer zone to Inland Bank. They did not have to remove any trees for this project, but they were over the 10% threshold of needing to provide mitigation. So 1725 square feet of additional impervious. So they did do the 2-to-1 mitigation, making it 3450 square feet in the riverfront area, which will be protected in perpetuity through the ongoing special conditions and also the permanent demarcation. They did request a waiver for work in the 25-foot buffer zone, which is really just to put in that restoration area. So you'll have to vote on whether you will waive that requirement and also waive the waiver fee, which they requested. Special conditions, they're pretty standard. When you get down to the planting work, and monitoring, I just had that the owner is allowed to mow the restoration area once per year in early spring to keep the area as a meadow habitat and to keep the woody plants from overtaking it. And that the restoration area will be delineated with the permanent demarcation. I put in a 2-year monitoring for the seeding to make sure that it actually takes and, you know, that area is stabilized. That's up to you if you want to have that or not. And then after that 2-year monitoring, they could file for their full certificate of compliance. We have the O&M plan that needs to be signed by the owner. And DEP likes us to have that no further alteration in the resource area allowed except as required to maintain the area in its restored or mitigated condition. Excuse me. So that's all I had. Do you want to have the 2-year monitoring of that area?
Anybody?
Wow.
It makes sense to do.
Yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
All right, done.
Sure. And just for future thought, I did end up talking to our circuit rider about this project and just making sure that how I was understanding the riverfront area regulations was correct, which it was.
Good work.
Thanks. So we were discussing how this area is almost 3,500 square feet of restoration or mitigation. And, you know, they're proposing the seed mix. And so Circuit Rider felt that an area that large should have trees, shrubs, the whole kind of shebang, not just the seed mix. It is at the commission's kind of discretion. But that on top of hoping that that area just doesn't become lawn at some point because there isn't really any other vegetation keeping that from happening. So just in the future, that's something we may want to keep in mind and what DEP kind of thinks as more of a give and take situation. So that's all I had.
Okay, any other comments? Fred, you got your hand up?
Well, yes, I just wondered if we could learn a little bit more from the circuit rider here in this example. Is it the size of the area warrants a more diverse habitat, or having some shrubs helps to protect it from reverting to lawn?
I
Or
think
what was the-
you're trying to increase the habitat value. It's also just kind of scary. I mean, it's 3,500 square feet and you can fit several trees and, a whole host of, all the layers. If there's a reason that you're trying to specifically keep a meadow habitat going, that's kind of one thing. But I think the fear on these small sites is that eventually it's just gonna become lawn. Especially because they're not proposing a fence any longer. So now they're just gonna have the bounds with the placards, and we're gonna have to allow them to mow it once a year to keep it as a meadow. So you just kind of look at it from all angles. I think when you're looking at what they're proposing. But it
I
is a
suppose-
good size.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose turf grass wants to invade these areas too and take over, doesn't it?
Yeah,
If the turf grass is right adjacent to it.
right. So just for future thought.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Any comments? No, then can I have a motion to,
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question. I know we asked them to put up placards. Do you know, are they like tall ones or have we specified?
So
How they're gonna look?
I did steal a spec from another town. Don't ask me who it was. That I did because Sue MacArthur had asked me. So I had found a good spec that I sent to her. And so it ends up it is 48 inches tall. So 2 feet underground, 2 feet above ground. So they should be noticeable, and they are spaced relatively close together on the plan, so hopefully noticeable.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
all right, so there's no more questions. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for?
Do we do the waiver,
I'm sorry?
the waivers first?
Oh, we gotta do the waivers first. Okay, thank you. The first waiver is can I have a motion to waive the requirement for no work in the 25-foot buffer zone.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay. Second issue is, can I have a motion to waive the fee for doing work in the 25-foot no disturb zone?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote again. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay. Then last but not least, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 35 Meadowbrook Road, DEP file 234-942?
Motion to issue.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay. The next item would be the order of conditions for 0 Cheney Street, DEP file 234-943.
Okay, so as they presented, this is basically a replacement of pipe. It's going to be a larger diameter pipe, and they are kind of stuck within the existing sewer easement, which I guess is good as far as environmental impacts, because at least they're in the same kind of footprint. Some of the work will take place within the bordering vegetated wetlands, inland bank of the intermittent stream, and in the 100-foot buffer zones. They didn't specify the owner on their application, so I know part of the work is going beneath the MBTA railroad, so I want to double check and make sure they have sign-offs, in
It's really
writing.
both the
Yeah, that's more of a note for myself, I guess. So this is the second phase of a two-phase project. So the work within the bank of the intermittent stream is it's about 45 linear feet, and they're also going to be restoring 45 linear feet, and that work is to install cofferdams for the pipe jacking pit. And that is also the reason for the 310 square feet of disturbance in the BVW, which they will also be restoring. So they're using erosion and sediment controls. They need a waiver for doing work within the bank of the stream, the BBW, and the various buffer zones. For special conditions, I didn't really have anything crazy. Number 11, once they have a contractor on board, they're going to have them submit a dewatering plan. So I am requiring that they give that to us prior or at the pre-construction site meeting. Yeah, that's unless you guys had other conditions you thought were applicable to that. That's all I had.
okay.
Good.
Any of the commissioners have question or comment?
And the disturbed areas, they are going to seed with a native conservation seed mix.
Deb,
Yep.
are you gonna want them to dispose of the water in a certain way? What will you be looking for in that plan? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, they have all kinds of things going on because they need to do a bypass along the stream. So it's really going to be a comprehensive dewatering. That's
I
gonna
could
go
I could
over.
address that partially, Fred. That we'd be looking for them to basically control the sediment that might come from the water, and they could either make a little dam with a dewatering pond, or if it's a small amount, a lot of people use bags, dewatering bags,
Okay.
or filter bags, things like that. I'm sorry.
I think
You know-
it depends on the contractor.
Yeah, but it'd be mostly sediment control.
Got it. Thank you.
Anybody else got any comments, questions? Okay, so there's a couple waivers you mentioned, Deb, that we have to vote on.
Well, they're going to be disturbing the bank of the intermittent stream. 310 square feet of bordering vegetated wetland and our 25-foot buffer zone. So they would need a waiver to do work in those 3 areas.
Is that three different waivers?
Yeah. You can combine them into one.
Okay. All right, let's combine them into one then. Can I have a motion to issue a waiver for work on the bank of an intermittent stream? Limited work in the bordering vegetated wetlands and work within the 25-foot no disturb zone.
So moved.
A second.
Okay, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So do we have fees associated with that?
Are they exempt from that?
Are they exempt from this? Yes.
Okay,
I have that actually in the. I have as a town project, it's exempt from submittal of filing fees. So yes,
okay.
they are exempt.
All right, then, can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for 0 Cheney Street, DEP file 234-943?
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, let's vote. Fred,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Paulina. You're on mute, Paulina. Oh, the chair votes aye.
Oh.
Paulina? You still with us, Paulina?
I'm still here, but I have to jump off having a
Oh,
family
you want to
issue.
vote?
Yes, I was gonna, I was gonna vote aye.
Okay, great. All right, that's
Okay.
good. Last time on the agenda, I give you an update on our regulation update. Received some last minute comments from a couple of commissioners, and we also got some comments from Tom Ryder on the stormwater policy. And I incorporated most of his comments. One of his comments was, and Sue and Deb should be familiar with this, is that the stormwater bylaw is under review and probably be modified, as well as issuance of some regulations. So I put a note in the policy that we would, that these, that the bylaw was under review and the regulations were being developed, and that we may in the future modify the policy to be in accordance with the new bylaw and new regulations.
Yeah,
But for
that's-
now, you know, that might be a half a year, might be a year, who knows? But we can go back and take another look at that. So.
That's
um,
great.
We're working hard on it, aren't we?
Yeah,
Sue?
no, I think we're pretty much done. I don't want any more comments from the commissioners. I guess let's plan on our next meeting to vote to adopt the regulations, and we'll solicit some public comment as well. The thing that I'll just bring this up because it came up a little bit today, and Deb and I have talked about this, and it's, you know, whether or not we want to modify the or ask the town to modify the wetlands bylaw to include the riverfront area under our jurisdiction. And I think that's something that, you know, maybe we want to do. It wouldn't be a big change. I don't see that the town, you know, the town meeting would have many objections. And then based on that, we could incorporate those areas into our local regulations. However, what we need to think about, other than just, perhaps our tree policy and, our procedural requirements, whether there's any other conditions for the riverfront area that we might want to consider. So that's something for everybody to think about. Let me just say one more thing. I think we're talking mostly about the outer riparian area, from 100 feet to 200 feet, because 100 feet area, 100 foot, the inner riparian area is probably going to be a buffer zone anyway, right? Because it's from a bank.
Yeah.
And so it's the outer riparian area.
Yeah.
That is. And that was the very subject of one of our applicants today. So
Have any other towns done that, Dave?
Yeah. Most other towns have it
They have it.
as in their bylaw
Okay.
that I've worked in anyways.
yeah, but not a lot of, all towns don't have bylaws either, so
That is true.
so, yeah. So we, I think it's too late to come to town meeting this May. So, there might be a town meeting in the fall, which I think Deb was saying that's might be where the stormwater bylaw would be modified, or the modifications be presented, or usually the town meetings in May, so that would be another opportunity. So I think there's plenty of time to look at that issue, and I personally don't want to hold up the other modifications we made to the regulations until then. There's no reason why we can't adopt the regulations we've already kind of gone through, and look at this separately. But that's open for discussion if anybody has any other thoughts.
Thank you for all your work, Dave,
Yeah,
on
well,
this.
yeah, we're almost there.
Yep, it was good initiative on your part.
Well, we had help, Reed and others have put in some time there, so it was sort of a group effort. All right, so unless there's anybody wants to bring up any other miscellaneous issue, I think we're done.
Oh, I have a miscellaneous issue.
Okay.
When do you think will we ever be voting for in-person again? I know Deb, it's a serious subject. I know.
We put you on the stormwater committee, which was in person. Isn't that
And
enough?
she's so happy there.
You want to?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to
It's
join?
not
Do
enough.
you want to join the community preservation committee? That's
I want
in
us to
person.
be
In fact,
in person.
a person just quit from the committee, so we're one person down. I could get you on that committee quickly.
Wow. Who quit?
Who quit? Well, I don't want to bring up any names here, but it was.
Or we'll all find out sooner or later.
Yeah.
But it's okay. You can keep your secret.
I want us in person. I
Excuse
have
me?
for the last 5 years. I wanted us to be in person.
Well,
Anyway.
Don't they have-
I know.
State is going to rule on that again, right, in April?
Right.
I wonder if they'll just rule the same thing. That's what I'm thinking.
All right.
The eighth-
1 out of 2 ain't bad.
I just think be in person at this point. That's all. But I know Clay's position is I mean I know Debbie's plate is full, I know. So I don't want to bug you, Deb, with anything else. But in sometime in the near future, can we
Mhm.
vote again?
Oh, That's an easy thing to have. I put, well, why don't we see what the government says at the end of March?
Yeah, I know. It's only, I know. I bet they'll say the same thing though.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, we'll see. The town might make us be hybrid. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. There's hope, Sue.
I want to see all of you again.
I know. Well, I'm lucky enough to see you.
I know the stormwater is great.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
We have
We had a
great-
lot of fun at that meeting.
I know.
Good times, good times. And
I
we're
know.
meeting so often now. It's like
Yeah.
weekly on
know.
Tuesday nights.
Yeah, well,
No.
we're anxiously awaiting to see your work product.
We're just having fun, Dave, at the meeting.
No, we want to, we want to see.
Perfection takes time, Dave.
We want to see the results.
They're coming. They're coming.
Well,
All right, so if there's nothing else, have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Clay.
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Good
See you in
night,
a couple
all.
weeks.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
I'll let you know when everything's out to sign.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sounds good.
everybody.